Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Wednesday, May 15th. One inflation report down, one more to go. After a hotter than expected PPI report, investors await the latest CPI report due out this morning. Stocks are coming off a winning session on Wall Street. The Dow added 126 points or 0.32% during regular trading yesterday. The S&P 500 advanced 25 points or about 0.5%. The Nasdaq picked up 122 points or 0.75%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 0.05%. We're flat to higher, which is it's kind of what you expect in front of a big report like this. You know, the CPI report is really a big inflation report. And, you know, at the end of the day, you got to look at the core reading because that's really what the Fed uses. And that core reading is expected to come in at 3.6% versus 3.8% last month, actually 3.8% the last 2 months. So, you know, that indicates a lowering of the inflation for the year. So that would be positive. And, you know, yesterday you heard from Cleveland Fed Bank President Loretta Mester, who said it's too early to think about that inflation was reversing course and really, you know, becoming very sticky and moving higher. You know, Jerome Powell spoke yesterday, and he really gave a bullish assessment of where the U.S. economy stands right now. And his outlook was for a continued above trend growth, and he has confidence in falling inflation that, you know, is really going to be, you know, is really a key going into it. So I do think we're going to see a weakening of that annual core. You know, in terms of the markets, you know, you're seeing a host of these positive AI announcements coming out. We had, you know, one from ChatGPT. We had yesterday from Google, and you know, remember Microsoft, that Microsoft Build conference that starts next week. That starts on Tuesday, 5/21. So that's something to pay attention to. There's weakness in Microsoft. You got to think about that AI tech conference and where AI is going to be a focus of that tech conference on Tuesday, and they're definitely going to say some positive commentary. You know, other things going on, you know, the IEA, the International Energy Association, they released their monthly report today, and they lowered their forecast for global oil demand growth in 2024. Now, that's different than what OPEC said yesterday, so that's kind of interesting. We're looking at, you know, markets overseas this morning, and let's take a look what's happening in Europe. Yeah, we're showing mostly gains. You know, I mean, we're looking at the DAX. The DAX is higher by 0.44%. The FTSE's higher by 0.2%. I mean, the ECB remains on course to cut rates this summer. And the GDP data out of the Eurozone showed growth, so that's positive. France is lower. There's some weakness going on in luxury goods market. Demand is kind of weakening in China, is what a story that I read said. In terms of Asia, you know, Tokyo, hey, you know, tech stocks rose in Tokyo. That was good to see. You know, Tokyo finished higher by 0.08%, not significantly, but you know, they did move higher. Now, the Bank of Japan is likely going to raise rates probably at their July meeting, is what the word kind of looks like. Hong Kong markets were closed. There was a holiday that affected a lot of Asian markets. That's why the volume is a little light in Asia. China, on the other hand, you know, listen, their markets fell. They fell 0.8%. You know, that was kind of a reaction to the U.S. implementing a new round of tariffs on a wide range of Chinese imports. A response is coming from China. They're going to hit back on the U.S. So let's just kind of wait and see how that plays out. We're talking oil. We got to keep an eye on oil. I mean, I was watching oil this morning and it was up. It was higher by 0.5%. I look at oil now, it's down 0.5%. You got WTI at $77.57 a barrel. You got Brent at $81.88 a barrel. You know, that API report came out. That was the stockpiles report that came out last night, and it showed that you know, oil inventories fell by 3.1 million barrels. Now, estimates were calling for a 1.1 million barrel drop. So this was a little more, which is normally bullish, but you know, you've got that EIA forecast of lowering demand. That's really causing some concerns. Later today, we got the stockpile report coming out, the official data coming out 1 hour after the market opens. So that's going to be a key one to watch. It really will affect the direction of oil prices today. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
Bill, it feels like we're on economic watch here today, this morning, as we discussed in the beginning. The PPI report did come out yesterday. The Fed's, one of the Fed's preferred gauges of inflation. The details showed maybe a better picture than that top line number. And today we're getting that CPI report. In just a moment, we're going to get through all of those economic events. Before we get there, we don't want to miss earnings action. So, Bill, give us a rundown of what we should be watching in terms of earnings.
Well, last night, Boot Barn, ticker BOOT, they beat by 8 cents on higher revenue, but you look at the stock, it's down 6.19% this morning. I told you the put volume was too elevated here. Something wasn't right. And sure enough, their guidance came in light. Then we have Next Tracker, ticker NXT, Nancy X-Ray Tom. They beat by 18 cents on higher revenue. That stock's up 14.75% this morning. Then you have Monday.com, ticker MNDY, Michael, Nancy, David Yellow. They released this morning. They beat by 21 cents, and they did that on higher revenue. That stock's up 18.92% this morning. Upcoming after the bell, we got Cisco Systems, ticker CSCO. Their EPS is 83 cents. Expected move is about 5%. You got Copa Holdings, ticker CPA, Charlie Paul Apple. This is an airline. Their EPS is $3.06. Expected move is 6.04%. Airline traffic has been fairly positive for CPA. January was weak, but February and March were good, and so was April. So that's kind of interesting to note. Call volume looks positive there. BIDU, ticker BIDU, Boy, India, David, Uncle. Their EPS is $2.30. Expected move is 6.68% when they release tomorrow morning. JD.com, ticker JD, John David. Their EPS is 63 cents, and their expected move is 9.33%. And then Walmart, they're releasing tomorrow morning. Ticker WMT. They're all, Baidu, JD, and Walmart are all releasing tomorrow morning. And Walmart's EPS is 52 cents with an expected move of 4.39% when they release, Emily.
Bill will be watching all of that, but now we're going to also give a rundown of the economic events of the day. We pointed to a few. So, Bill, give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to economic events.
Well, the CPI for April is really the key report coming out today. That's due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. It's the core reading, which strips out the volatility components, which is really watched by the Fed makers. And, that annual core should slow to 3.6, which would be down from 3.8. So that's going to be a key one. We also have retail sales coming out. This is a big one. This is one to watch. And of course, the oil stockpiles report is due out this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. In terms of Fed speak at noon, we're going to be hearing from Fed Bank President of Minneapolis, Neil Kashkari, and then at 3:20 p.m. we're going to be hearing from Fed Governor Michelle Baumann. In terms of yesterday, that PPI number, listen, the estimates were forecasted at 0.3% rise, and it came in at a 0.5% increase. It really, the markets reacted quickly off the headline, but when you look at the data, the components that make up 70% of that increase are of the overall increase. Were really related to like services, less trade, transportation, warehousing index. You take that out, and the report really wasn't that bad. So, I didn't think that report, the PPI, was that ugly yesterday. And I guess, the headline scared everybody, but when they went into the details, they noticed probably what I noticed, and that's why the market turned yesterday. But this morning, it's all about the CPI. We'll see what happens when that report comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time today, Emily.
And again, watching all of that, and you're doing that using your NewsWare. And this way, you're gathering that data and information quickly as it comes out. You're not trailing behind major news outlets because you have a professional news wire right in front of you, gathering that economic data, watching that Fed speak, also keeping track of those earnings. But you're also watching other types of news, merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback catalysts. You also look at stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Yeah, the major media organizations, they use NewsWare. They're subscribers of NewsWare. Why? Because they know we get the data first. In terms of like a quick data check, I'm looking at the Dow stocks. I'm showing 15 higher, 9 lower, the rest unchanged. Okay, in terms of my FANG stocks, this is where it gets a little cautious. Netflix is unchanged, but it looks like it's going to open up a little higher. But all the other ones are fractionally lower, with the exception of Tesla, which is 0.3% higher. So it's very mixed. Not a positive. We're really waiting for that CPI report this morning. But we're talking some of the news behind the headlines, like Amazon. Amazon's web services is going to invest 8.4 billion into building cloud infrastructure in Europe. A headline hit the tape this morning. Google, ticker GOOG, they had that positive move yesterday on the AI news. Remember, stocks were at 170. I said, listen, they got that AI conference. This thing's going to move higher. And sure enough, it moved $2 higher yesterday. We're talking Netflix. Comcast is said to be launching a bundle deal where they're going to be bundling the Peacock network, Netflix, and Apple TV into a streaming bundle. That's kind of interesting. I don't think it's as good as like some of the Disney bundles that are out there, but it is interesting. And then we're talking Tesla's. Tesla's board is out there pushing to reinstate stock options to Elon Musk. I don't think you're going to get, that. I don't think you get approval from that. Hard to do. Talking Dow Jones 30 stocks, we're talking Boeing showing a little weakness this morning, down 0.8% this morning. DOJ is out there saying, came out after the bell yesterday, saying that Boeing violated the DPA settlement after that 737 Max crash. I'm not putting too much weight onto this story. I think it will soon be forgotten about. 3M, Minnesota Mining Manufacturing, they had a strong performance yesterday. Give back some of those gains today. These guys really are innovators in science materials. And they say they're progressing in executing the company's strategic priorities. A little concerning, but I do think, remember, this used to be a $300 stock. They sold off some divisions, so they could be having, could be set for a move higher. We're talking IBM, International Business Machines. They signed a memorandum of understanding with Honda to explore R&D on semiconductor chips and software technologies. We're talking Microsoft, and just pointing out that they got that Build conference that starts on Tuesday. In terms of merger news, Paramount Global, ticker PARA, the stock was falling yesterday on a report that Sony's starting to rethink its bid. Ooh, that's not good. That leaves them with one bid. But remember, it's all about share Redstone's getting paid. What else? Capital One, ticker COF, the OCC, and the Fed are going to be holding a July 19th public meeting about their the proposed purchase of Discover. TikTok, Frank McCourt, he's owned the Dodgers, was not a great owner for the Dodgers. Dodgers fans hated him, but he's making waves about buying TikTok. We'll see if that happens. In terms of guidance news, Boot Barn, ticker BOOT, they see guidance 94 cents to $1. Street estimates has it at $1.09. That's not good. We're talking Monday.com, MNDY. They see full year 2024 revenue coming in 942 million to 948 million. Street estimate headed at 938. That's an uptick. That's positive. That's why you're seeing Monday.com trading up over 18% this morning. Terms of buyback news, Dynatrace, ticker DT, David Tom, their board approved a repurchasing plan of up to $500 million of stock. That's good. We're talking catalyst calls, HLVX, Henry, Larry, Victor, X-Ray, JP Morgan added the stock, Hillavax, to its focus list and placed it on a catalyst positives watch. I guess they got an upcoming announcement drug in front of the FDA, so it's one to watch. HLVX, Henry, Larry, Victor, X-Ray. Typically, stocks move into the announcements, so it's one to keep an eye on. But that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
Going with Cisco Systems, ticker Cisco, CSCO, Charlie Sam, Charlie Oscar. Earnings are out after the bell. EPS 83 cents. Expected move 4.72%. Yesterday, you had call volume of 81,965 against put volume of 33,616. That's more than 2 to 1. Then you look at the open interest, 595K versus 437K. Okay, positive. It looks good. Now the major brokers are not in unison. I mean, but they are mostly positive on it. JP Morgan's not on board, but Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and Citibank are positive on the stock. They just see too many positive catalysts. Remember, that they feel could move this stock higher. Last quarter was disappointing for them. They lowered guidance. Now that lowers the bar for making a beat more possible for this quarter. But it's hard to say, an entry point ahead of the CPI. But I'm gonna go out there and say, 48.70-ish. I'm hoping to get in under 49, 48.70-ish. I mean, depending on what the CPI report says, but I do think we're going to see the stock start to move as we get closer to earnings. I'm going to try and take a beat, try and take a gain if I can get one during the day. But that's my pick of the day. Cisco Systems, ticker CSCO, Charlie Sam, Charlie Oscar, Emily.
Keeping an eye on Cisco Systems today, and again, making a call ahead of that CPI report, tricky, but you did it for us anyway. And coming up, we're going to do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day to see how that went. We did hear it earlier in the show, didn't point it out, but I will get to that in just a moment, so stick with us. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, sending it back to you.
This is interesting. NEO got upgraded to neutral at JP Morgan. Remember the Biden's EV tariffs. That's interesting. Walgreens brand Nano-Lexon now available in stores in May. Top Callaway Golf, ticker MODG, selects PepsiCo's official beverage partner. It's an 8-year deal. PBR, Paul Boy Richard, elevated put volume yesterday. Today, I see that Petrobras falls after Brazil fire CEO Jean-Paul Patras. Cleveland Cliffs, ticker CLF. There's a deal with U.S. Steel, with Nippon Steel planning on buying U.S. Steel. Biden's against it. But the CEO of Cleveland Cliffs comes out and says zero chance of winning government approval. It continues to have opposition from the United Steel Workers. This deal could fall apart. I mean, Cleveland Cliffs, was really looking to get at this thing at a steal, and it's still possible. Eli Lilly LLY entered into a settlement agreement with MediaSpa that had sold counterfeit versions of its popular diabetes drugs and weight loss treatments. Okay. Honda, is scaling down its full-time production workforce in China. Meta Platforms, Malaysia's communication minister expressed outrage at Meta Platforms yesterday, demanded it to explain why it has taken down Facebook posts by local media covering Prime Minister's meeting this week with a Hamas leader. Kroger, ticker KR, they signed an agreement with GoodRx to deliver improved prescription drug pricing. Interesting. BioMarin, ticker BMRN, they put out a regulatory filing. Looks like they're reducing their workforce. Got that Bank of America healthcare conference going on today. X-Ray, Jazz, Merck, and Aviva is all presenting today. ASND, Apple Sam, Nancy David, they had a PDUFA date yesterday, but it was pushed back to August 15th. That's going to cause weakness in the stock. That's all I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off today, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Nextracker. You did point out the stock during your earnings rundown earlier in the show. The company reported yesterday after the bell, they reported adjusted earnings per share of 96 cents. That was well ahead of the estimates of 78 cents per share. Revenue for the quarter came in at $737 million. That's a 42% jump from the prior year period, and it was well ahead of estimates of $683.2 million. The company also mentioned a backlog of $4 billion in the 2024 fiscal year, and that is credited to the demand in the U.S. and across the globe. Bill, there was a chance for a win yesterday. It's up big this morning. How did your call work out?
It worked out. I mean, listen, look at the numbers here. The stock opened up at $43.79. And right at the open, it jumped all the way up to $44.08, and then it just sold off. It hit a low of $42.20, and that was really weak. And then came the earnings announcement. After the earnings came out, the stock hit $48.20. You look at it now this morning, it hit a high of $49.50, and it's currently trading $48.90. So, yeah, I mean, it was good. Now, I don't know if I have good luck or bad luck some days, but I, I legged into this thing. I picked up some shares at 48.01. It was a partial fill. 43.01, 43.01, and it was in the pre-market yesterday. And I got closed out at 44, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I got a gain, I'll take it. Da, da, da. But I missed the big move that happened after the bell. I mean that really would have been stellar to be able to get out 49. But if you're holding the stock, you can get out now, man. You got a good gain on the day. You got a 13% gain, 14% gain on the day. So Next Tracker, a solar company, NXT, Nancy X-Ray Tom was a big winner yesterday and this morning, Emily.
A nice big win there, and a green is green, and also a chance for a big win for anybody else who was able to jump in. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Cisco Systems pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk, when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.